Hey guys, it's Gina here. I want to go ahead and do this quick video. This is going to be the book that I'm going to read for you right now. And it's called What to Do Until Love Finds You. Getting Ready for Mr. Right. And it was, the author is Michelle McKinney Hammond, I think. Okay, I know I purchased this one probably at the same store, that Walden Books out at the mall. So I pretty much got all of my books there. So I'm so sad that they don't have that store anymore, because it was a pretty good store. But anyway, okay, guys, we're going to start with chapter 1, but I will read to you the table of contents just so you know the chapters. Here are the table of contents. The gift, the first encounters, the intimate challenge, dealing with dreams, promises, the awakening, the real deal, confrontation, the truth comes out, truth or consequences, looking in the mirror, costly expectations, love talk, the initial surrender, the first revelation, a final word, and then it has a study guide. So I'm going to read a little bit of the introduction only because I highlighted. Yeah, I have a tendency of highlighting, so I'm just going to read the highlight part. So it says, you can do a lot to prepare your heart, your soul, your head, your everything for a mate. He could be here any minute. Jesus says we are to occupy until he comes. By this, he means that we need to be actively and productively waiting for his return and preparing ourselves for the day when we'll meet him face to face. Can be exciting and fulfilling. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thy heart. The same occupying also applies to waiting for a mate. And then the last part that I highlighted says, if your longing is based on what God's desire is for you, then God has a man for you. I kind of wish I only highlighted in yellow because the pink kind of like sinks in, and I hate that because it's harder to read the pink than it is the yellow. So bear with me, guys, because my stigmatism is acting up because I have read 4 other books. And I felt like I needed a lot of positivity. I mean, I'm already married, guys. This is not about that, but it also helps you to continue on the journey with your partner. Some of these things still apply because you never stop really dating your spouse, right? So this applies to the people that are married and also for the people who are not married who are looking for that special person. So we're going to read chapter 1. It's called The Gift. So here we go. For years, I walked in adamant denial of my singleness. I refused to attend singles events, read singles books, or accept the Apostle Paul's rationale that we should all be single crusaders for Christ. After much discussion, I came to call them moan sessions. With my other Christian sisters, I was forced to ponder another question. Was I the unsuspecting recipient of the gift? The gift was the capacity to walk through life being totally sublime and undisturbed about one's marital status. Those possessing the gift were busy being concerned with spiritual things. They had spiritual battles to fight, scriptures to explore, unsaved souls to conquer. Of course, I was concerned about spiritual things. I devoured scriptures, and yes, I was even actively involved in winning souls for Christ. But there was still an undeniable void in my life. I decided that the answer for me was no. I was waiting for God to give me the desire of my heart, and I was not going to try to beat myself into submission to a gift. I had not been given. Sorry, guys. Yeah, that was supposed to go all together. I was waiting for God to give me the desire of my heart, and I was not going to try to beat myself into submission to a gift I had not been given. Sometimes with stigmatism, it's kind of hard to focus. So I kind of pause a little bit just to kind of get my focus on something else and then go back and okay. I had not been given. So I felt that I had been created to be a part of someone else's life and know how to be happy and single manual was going to remove my frustration over my other half's late arrival. Learning to listen. You're not ready. All my married friends said, "Yes, I am." I angrily answered and proceeded to careen through one painful relationship after another. My diligent search for my mate led me into dangerous territory, the land of compromise. Against the warnings of my friends, I decided I could probably convert one of those handsome, witty, unsaved men I knew and be done with it. But after emerging blood bloodied and discouraged from what I decided was my last traumatic romance, I waved the white flag of surrender. I sat down at the feet of Jesus, finally ready to hear what he had to say. To my belief, he agreed that I did not have the gift. However, he enabled me to see that I had a lot to learn before he could send me into the arms of the man he had designed me for. See, and I apparently highlighted that. So apparently that was something that was very important to me at the time, which was what, like 9 years ago, 10 years ago, no, about 7 to 9 years ago. He encouraged me to begin my preparation by studying the Old Testament heroine Esther. As I studied to my surprise, I learned that there was a time of preparation, 12 months to be exact, before Esther's king would even see his potential bride to be in order to determine whether or not he wanted her to be his wife. Those 365 days were called the days of beautification. There were 6 months of treatments with oils, then 6 more months with spices and cosmetics before Esther was ready for her unveiling. Meanwhile, she was receiving instruction on how to please the king. Of course, I spiritualized all the information. How wonderfully significant, I thought. First, we have to be submerged in the Holy Spirit, and the fruit of the Spirit has to be operating fully in our lives, thus creating a sweet smelling aroma in the nostrils of God. Ah, the smell of it. And our outward countenance should radiate our holiness. But there was one fact I could not spiritualize. Esther chose to take the advice of the, what is that word? Hold on, guys. Enoch, who was in charge of all the king's women. Now I had long since worn out my closest married friends in this area. I absorbed all her advice with untiring relish and just as quickly discarded it to carry out my own um, whims. After all, when did married people know? Well, Esther listened and Esther got what she wanted. I decided to take the hint. So the next one is in search of the right role. In search of the right role. I also studied another Old Testament book, this time about a woman called Ruth. Ruth was one cool cucumber. She set her mind on the business of gleaning the fields, and by following her mother in law's advice, there, that word again. Ruth got her man. Ruth knew some things about submission that I had yet to learn. She was not ashamed to make her needs known, but she was acutely aware that timing was everything. So apparently, I highlighted that because it was very important for me to understand that. I suspect she learned the importance of a quiet spirit while watching her mother in law deal with her husband and son in the land of Moab. I have to admit, I initially spiritualized that this story too. Oh, how marvelous, I sighed. What a poetic way of portraying being caught up in the word of being busy about the work of harvesting souls for Christ. While I'm busy doing God's work, my husband will notice me from a distance, become intrigued, and this overwhelming desire to protect and care for me will come over him, and voila, victory, victory will be mine. And so I apparently highlighted that part too. um, okay. I'll be married in no time. At As time passed, however, I learned that these timeless stories contained far more than spiritual lessons. I'll share some of their practical wisdom with you in the pages that follow. Gradually, as I studied, listened to others, and sat at the feet of Jesus, I came to accept that there were certain principles that have to be followed in the course of courtship. This is not because love is a game, but because God has designed a certain role for women and a certain role for men. Now, for all the women's libbers, I am not referring to becoming dishwasher and doormans. I mean doormats, not doormans. Sorry, guys. Eyes need to refocus. So it says, I am not referring to becoming dishwashers and doormats, but I am convinced that the only way to have an effective relationship, the way God has designed it, is for both parties to stick to their roles. I am a firm believer that a man has his role and a woman has his role. And anybody who tries to say otherwise is completely wrong. That's how God designed it, and that's how it should be. That's my opinion on that. So let's keep reading. This is the last page, so we're going to be finished quick. Imagine attending a play only to find that the leading man decided to take over the leading lady's lines or voice, or vice versa. The audience would become confused and the play's flow would be destroyed. Theater reviewers often take the time to analyze whether or not an actor or actress is suitable for a role and what effect their portrayal has on the overall feel of the movie or play. Roles are very important and not easily mastered. When I was involved in theater, there was a popular saying, there are no small parts, only small actors. A woman's role is no smaller than a man's role. It requires just as much strength of character to be a woman as it does to be a man, and sometimes more. Each person has a responsibility to operate in his or her role in a manner that glorifies God. If this does not occur in a relationship, we sense in our spirits that something is wrong, even if we weren't able to identify the problem intellectually. The results are doubt, mistrust, disrespect, lack of sensitivity to each other's needs, and eventually the demise of the relationship. So I apparently highlighted that because I thought that was very, very important. And if you need a little bit of time to read that or take a picture of it, go right ahead and do it, because I think it's very, very important that we respect the man's role as much as the woman's role. The answer to finding the right role with the right leading man in the right play is important, but it isn't as closed No, not closed. But it isn't as colossal a problem as it might seem at first. Through my time of listening and learning, and there's another highlighted part right there, so I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. If you need to take a picture of it, you can, or pause it so you can read it. I've discovered that we single women need to relax. We are members of a do society. We are programmed to do in order to attain. But as women of God, we are called to be. That that's cause that's cause for rejoicing. It makes our lives a lot easier than we might naturally imagine. Along the way, I've learned some valuable lessons about waiting, and I hope you'll take my advice more readily than I've sometimes taken the advice of others. If you do, I think you'll find your own days of waiting to be joyful and exciting ones. Okay, so that was chapter 1. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I really liked it. I like opening up these books because it's been a long time since I've read them, and I'm still learning. I think that they still apply to me today, because while I did find my partner, I found my husband, I feel that I still need to, go back and reread some of these things because they're still important. I'm still on the journey. I'm still trying to keep my marriage. I'm not, letting go and just be like, hey, I'm married already and that's it. No, you got to continue to work on it, and not let him forget who he actually married, and for him to be happy with his choice. Anyway, so the next chapter is going to be first encounters. And I love opening up the books because apparently I find like things in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I didn't read the other ones that I found in the other books, but I'll go ahead and read this one. I think that I used it as a bookmark, but let me just read it. I think I got this at church or something because I don't know. It says, come unto Christ, who is the Holy One of Israel, and partake of his salvation and the power of his redemption. Ye come unto him, and offer your whole souls as an offering unto him, and continue in fasting and praying, and endure to the end. And as the Lord liveth, ye will be saved. And that's what I found in the book. So that's kind of cool. Apparently, I have a lot of things in my books, which is really, really cool to find. I don't think I have anything on this one. I did find like 3 other papers. Look, see, there's another one in here. There's another one in here, guys. So I'm totally going to be reading those right now. If you guys want to find out what was in my books, you can like this video or comment it down below, and I'll go ahead and share it with you. And they're probably private, guys. They're probably about, like when I was younger back then and I was actually just writing stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. These are all the books that I have on my playlist right now. So the one we just read was Until Love Finds You, so you can go ahead and check that one. I also did Secrets of an Irresistible Woman. I did Reaching to Heaven. I did Then Comes Marriage, and then I also did God Will Make a Way. So go ahead and check out those books. I will be posting the other chapters. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing them daily or every other day. I'm not sure yet, but just go ahead and look for those. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you do enjoy them so I can continue to bring out more books, because I have a ton of self-help books. And if you guys have any that you would like to recommend, definitely comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely do so. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time to read these books with me. And stay positive. Know that God loves you, and know that he will make a way. And for any problems you might have, or if you're looking for that specific person in your life, or if you're trying to keep your marriage. Um, yeah, so thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.